And a few years back, I was doing a show for BBC and Star Plus. You know Super Nanny, which works in UK?
Yeah.
So they were doing the Indian version in Hindi, and I was the Super Nanny for India, maybe because of my tough attitude. So they say good parents never make mistakes. Oh my God, how that's not true. Because errors, mistakes are all part and parcel of our life, and parenting, of course, will have them. And it's wonderful for parents to have somebody whom they can learn from, whom they can listen to or talk to. And I think that is the biggest aspect of parenting, where you have somebody who understands parenting. And today we have with us Michelle Narona. She is a parent content creator, and she does some wonderful work on gentle parenting. Welcome, Michelle. How are you?
I'm very good. Thank you, Dr. Swati, for having me do this. It's a true honor. You're somebody, I think, who inspires a lot of us. You're somebody who I look up to. And as an educator, I think you're one of the best that's out there. So thank you so much for having me here.
Thank you. You made my day. I hope I make yours too.
Sure.
So tell me, gentle parenting. I really love the concept. How did you think of this concept?
You know, I think I read about it. I heard so much about it, and as somebody who, lives with a lot of trauma, right, from her own childhood, and while it was not intended trauma on the part of my parents, it was they were raised in a certain way. They only knew a certain way of raising. They did the best in their circumstances, and I have no complaints on that. But there was a lot of shouting and screaming and hitting. It's something that I didn't want my child to experience, having been there myself, right? I didn't want to be in her. I didn't want her to be like in my shoes.
Why to have a
right. And I think I wanted to be a cycle breaker, that word that we use, which by the way, I've never learned to ride a cycle, but yes, I'm a cycle breaker in that sense. So it was a very conscious decision. Fortunately for me, my partner was also on board, and it's worked pretty wonderfully for us.
So you are able to practice it.
I am able to practice it. I practice it to a great extent. For anybody who knows me, I'm the most impatient person. I can get really angry, ask the many adults around me, especially at my workplace and stuff like that. I find it very difficult to regulate my emotions, around tricky situations. But with a 7-year-old, who is literally the boss, and I think it's her world, and we're just side actors in it, right?
That's what also, when you said something very interesting, that you're very impatient with adults. So am I.
Yeah.
Because I think adults need to have more sense. You can't expect that from a child.
Exactly.
So that's where our patience or impatience stems from.
True. Like, my mom says this. She's like, there was so much that I was going through. Obviously, financially, things were not really nice, and it was not easy, right? 2 kids in a situation where you have a partner also who, while he was a very present partner per se, they had their own whatever. It comes, right? In such situations, to even then raise kids, and considering that you didn't come from a background where you had a lot yourself, right? So, kudos to parents who did it the way they did it then. But like I say, there's always scope for improvement, there's scope for change, and I think we're the generation who will bring about that change and who can kind of sort of propel that change. So that's how I look at it.
Oh, I would love that if, a generation of parents now stop raising their hand on their child, or stop abusing children, or stop comparing children, because that also negatively affects a child,
It does. And I know how much it has happened to me, like even though I was probably in the first 3-4 ranks or whatever, I did very well in school, but there was always that comparison, there was always one that chimti kaatna for that one silly mistake, 1/2 a mark you lost to a silly mistake, right? And yeah, so comparisons were aplenty. If it wasn't your classmates or your friends, it was your cousins. Somebody was always better than you. You were like somebody out there, and everybody around you was the best, but you didn't make it to the best, right? So yeah, so that's how.
So how do you explain gentle parenting to other parents? How do you help them?
So the way I look at it and the way I explain it is that it's very simple. I look at it as a two-way street, of respect, of one being kind to yourself, because I truly believe that unless you are kind to yourself, unless you accept your own flaws, your own issues, there's no way you can never pour from an empty cup, right? If I have to look at that.
Very well
so
said.
While people say I will say this, I know I say the gentle parenting is easy, but it's equally tough. It's not so tough being one, but it's tough living it every day.
Yeah.
Right? It's easier to scream. It's easier to shout, right? So gentle parenting is basically giving your child the space, the respect they deserve, holding space for them while you stay at the back foot, per se. And it's the urge to not scream, not shout. If I look at it, it's responding and not reacting.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so that's something I've been working on.
Absolutely.
It's so easy for us to react, right? It's so difficult to respond. So for me, gentle parenting is that. It's responding over reacting.
The facts that I have in front of me are that in India, 77% parents resort to hitting children, with 28% admitting to doing this regularly. And a few years back, I was doing a show for BBC and Star Plus. Super Nanny, which works in UK.
Yeah.
So they were doing the Indian version in Hindi, and I was the Super Nanny for India, maybe because of my tough attitude. So I had this parent who came and said that, how do I stop my hand? Because it raises on its own. And what idea I had given the parent at that time was tie a red ribbon on that hand which you raise. So the minute you see that red, you have to stop.
Yeah.
Because it's not easy, as you said.
Yeah.
You will have to have all kinds of support systems, tools that will help you stop doing that to your child. Ultimately, it's your child.
Yeah. I think, the way I look at it is, why do people hit? Okay. It's one, to prove your power over somebody who's powerless. Like I always quote this example. Imagine you're in an office space. Your boss says something. Your boss is probably forget the boss, a colleague. It could be junior, it could be senior to you. And this person says something which you don't agree with, or this person is constantly irritating you. Are you going to go and slap that person? No.
Exactly.
Even though the person is an adult, knows their boundaries, is crossing their boundaries, and you still don't do it, right? You're very careful around it. You kind of absorb it all in.
Right.
So why is it then that we feel it's very normal to hit a child? We do it simply because the child has no power. Because the child is not going to hit you back.
Or it was done to us.
Yeah, it was done to us. Normal. Yeah, it was done. It was very normal. In fact, and I had done a post around this also. Very recently, this happened. That my child actually asked me this. She said it was one of those days, Mama, I don't want to go to school. And I was like, but why don't you want to go to school? I was like, you have to go to school. And I said, we always went to school. She's like, your times were different. Okay, now you can't argue a lot with that one. So I said yes, and she's like, but why did you always go to school? I was like, because if we didn't go, we were hit or we were shouted at and we had to go. And she's like, then you hit me, no? Why don't you hit me?
Oh.
So I said, because I've never hit you and I don't feel the need to hit you. Of course, I shout at you at times, but I said, I don't see a need to hit you. And she's like, so I asked her this. I said, Myra, why don't you hit? And she's like, Mama, but you're elder to me, no? I am smaller than you. You can hit me.
Oh,
I can hit you.
Look at that.
Yeah, so, I think even though we've never taught her this in the sense that, somebody older to you can, but it's very deeply ingrained. Right? Because kids, obviously, as much as you may, your home forms a very small part of it as they grow up, right? Until the time they're probably in
absolutely
3 or 4 is when the house forms a very large part.
Yeah.
She's 7 now. She has friends. She goes down to the society to play. She goes to school. She spends more time, with all these activities than at home. So there's going to be a lot of influence. She has grandparents, and of course, it's very deeply ingrained in them, right? That you respect
True.
elders, you treat them in a certain way. So thus, for her to have that thing in her mind that just because you are older than I am and you can do it for me, was also a little shaking down for me.
Thought of that.
Yeah,
this is how
yeah,
children perceive
exactly.
it.
So just the perception,
It's,
and somehow it took me back to me being a kid, you know, because I felt it was normal for my parents to hit me, right?
Exactly.
Because they always hit you.
I think she nailed it quite well, that if you are older to me or bigger than me,
Yeah,
then you can hit me. So
Yeah.
that's the concept of a bully.
exactly. And there's power at play,
Yes,
right?
there's
It's
power
like
at
really
play,
a power at
exactly.
play, and you
Absolutely.
know, it's like in that child's head, it's normalized that somebody who's older or more powerful than
Can
me
hit me.
can hit me.
And you know, the two repercussions that parents are usually not aware of is, number one is, after they hit, they tend to calm down, and then they go and apologize to the child, and then they say, see, because I love you, no, so I hit you.
Yeah,
And then you are teaching the child that love and hitting is synonymous.
Yeah.
So which means in your later relationships,
domestic violence is so normalized.
so that's why you are normalizing it by saying that to your child.
Absolutely.
And you have suddenly taught this child that it's perfectly fine.
And I think you and I are both part of a lot of, you know, groups
Yes.
as such. And I think we've seen these questions time and again,
all the time.
where women come and say things like, you know, my husband is doing XYZ, he's hitting me, he abuses me, but he loves me a lot.
Exactly.
So it is so internalized.
Yes.
Violence is so
done by your
normal.
parents,
Exactly. So it's, you know, it's very difficult, I think, for, and it's very like, you know, my first reply, whenever I reply on any, I very rarely do because they trigger me.
Yeah.
So I have actually stayed out of a lot of parenting groups now because these questions got triggering after a point,
Yeah.
you know, because one, you're reliving your trauma, and two, you're like, you can't do anything about it, and you still want to do a lot of things. You're like, I'd rather stay away from the
Absolutely.
situation. Sometimes you just choose your mental peace over being, you know, a change maker in that sense. And my first thing is like, do you not see what is happening?
Yeah.
It's 2025 almost. You have to really get away from it.
Absolutely.
Yeah. But I have this question for you. You know, obviously you are an educator. You've met all sorts of parents, and you've been in the sort of the industry, or it's been your career for such a long time in the profession, I'd rather say. How have you seen, you know, parents evolve? I say it from a sense that, let's give the PTA for example, right?
Yeah.
There's no better example than a PTM. It's
Exactly.
when all the skeletons come out of the bag. Like, I would think my daughter is amazing. Wow, she's such a quiet soul. And I go to the class and teacher's like, my God, how much does she talk? Why is she only talking? Like, she's always interested in what somebody else is doing. And I'm like, no, that's not my perception of my
Exactly.
child, because I see my child as a completely different person. So how have you seen parents, you know, change over the years? Their questions that
So
come
it's
to
been
you?
35 years now that I've been in this field. Both, I started as a teacher, so I've seen parents as a teacher, and then I've seen parents as an administrator, I've seen parents as a parenting mentor. But I would say one thing is that I've always seen a thirst in parents about learning, which has been a constant. In those days, they used to rely on books,
True.
experts, and today, of course, it's on social media
Everything's
and
on
WhatsApp
social media.
University. The only thing I've seen changing is there is a certain amount of guilt, which nowadays the parent feels if they are not able to give time to their children, or they are not able to follow the latest parenting norms. So there is that sense of, I'm not doing the right thing, which never used to be there before.
Yeah.
The older generation of parents used to follow what their parents used to do.
Yeah.
The younger generation of parents is now more into either following what their peer group is doing, or what they see on certain so-called expert reels.
Yeah.
But
Everybody's an expert
Yeah.
these days.
But I would say a constant is, I have yet to meet a parent who doesn't want to learn.
Yeah.
There is that hunger for learning to be a better parent.
Yeah.
So that has always been there, that I want to be a better parent, and that's something that I've always seen over the years.
I think we, you know, like you mentioned, there's so much pressure on parents today to
Yes.
be something that their peers are. I recently met, you know, the counselor at my child's school, and of course, so there was some bullying incident, something like that happened, and my daughter told me that, you know, I was like, and I said she doesn't hit
Yeah.
because generally she's
Yeah.
had such episodes in the past and she's never hit. And
Yeah.
she's of this opinion that no, I should not hurt somebody, right?
Oh, how lovely.
And this time, no, but I was taken, like I was in for a shock when I said, no, she's like, no, mama, I tried hitting him this time. I'm like, really? You did? And she's like, yeah, mama, what do I do? You know, if he's doing this to me all the time, I had to push him back. She didn't hit him,
Yeah.
but she like set her boundary that, hey, don't cross this path. And then, you know, it was a good 30 minutes sort of a chat, and the parent was the counselor was asking her questions, asking us questions. And at the end of it, she told me this, and she's like, you know what? I think you need a therapist, you need a counselor more than your child does. Because she's like, your child is just being a child.
Yeah.
She's being naughty, she's doing things, you know, which all of us did, and she's just doing age appropriate things. She's saying, however, you are taking her childhood and this entire parenting thing so seriously. She's like, you really need to, like, you know, get out of it. Just relax. She's like, you're doing great as a parent. She's like, but there is no need
So
for you.
relaxed parenting also.
Yeah, new mantra. And that's the most difficult to be. Huh? Being a hyper-parent is very easy.
Yeah.
But yeah, so, you know, obviously, as I'm talking about, we're from a different generation. And my peers right now, we all of us still have a very different approach to
Yeah,
parenting.
that's true.
I have, you know, mums who are probably 5 years younger than I am. And today, 5 years technically is a generation in
It
that
is.
sense, right?
Huge.
Yeah. So, and I still see them resorting to, you know, one hitting, two things like, if you don't do this, I will do this. There's a lot of blackmailing.
Right.
If you want this, do this. So, and
You
I
know
think
that
somehow,
blackmailing and hitting. Let me connect it to another thing. That do you know sexual predators?
yeah,
They use both these things on children.
yeah,
So when you tell your child and blackmail your child that if you don't do this, I will do this. That's what sexual predators also do.
yeah,
That I will do this to your mummy if you go and tell this. So sometimes we are ingraining behaviors in our children which others will then use against our children.
yeah. So I have goosebumps when you're talking about
Yeah.
this, and this is because I have been through sexual abuse,
Okay.
and it was by a relative.
it's always a relative.
Yeah, it is. It is. So I
Always a
spoke
relative.
to my mum about it only now, 5 years ago.
Because he must have threatened you.
Yeah, I mean, it was not so much threatening as such. One, you didn't really talk about these things, right? Your
Yeah.
parents didn't talk about sexual abuse. Your parents didn't tell you anything about, you know, what touch is appropriate
Yeah.
and when do you lay
Yeah.
boundaries, and you know where it starts from, right? Okay, you don't like this person, doesn't matter. Go say hi to them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Give auntie.
Give
a kiss.
auntie a kiss.
Yeah.
Sit on her lap.
Yeah.
Go hug her.
Santa, we
Yeah.
now see it's Santa
Yeah.
season. So many parents will say, go, sit on Santa's lap. How
Without
do you
realizing
know
who do you know
who's
which
inside
power is
that?
under
Yeah,
it. Exactly.
Exactly.
That's the point, you know, that's where it starts. So for somebody who's been through, you know, abuse as such, I know what it is like, and that's why for me, my antennae are always up.
Hmm.
Like, I just can't trust her with anybody other than maybe probably close
True.
family and stuff like that. There's always this fear
Always.
of, you know, you don't know who is lurking where, and
Yeah, you never
it's not
know.
just that. I'll be honest with you. Even when I'm like, my child has a male, you know, I think music teacher or PE teacher. There's always this
That
fear at the back of the
anxiety.
mind, right? You're like, what if, where, and you don't know. You know these things happen in the best of schools, right? It doesn't matter what sort of you know, standard of
Yes.
school you choose for your child. It can happen anywhere because people and predators as such can be anybody.
So, you know, that's what I tell, and that's what we do in our schools, is number one, teach children boundaries and teach them to really understand boundaries. And number two, we are very careful in teaching our school staff where all that are they allowed to touch a child. Because it can be something as simple as you are helping a child get onto the bus.
Right.
Now, your hands are under the child's arms, but your
Correct.
fingers are on the child's chest.
Correct.
So we tell them, don't do that.
Yeah.
And never leave a child unattended. So this happens usually in schools where there are areas where a person knows there's no CCTV coverage here and there's nobody with this child right now. So always have a buddy system. Tell your child also. Always have a buddy system.
That's cool.
And
Yeah.
always be supervised. I always tell staff, never leave any one child unsupervised. So it's very, very important. If we just follow this, no, every school child will be safe. That's
Yeah.
so much important. And of course, as I said, we need to teach them about body safety.
Yeah. I think body safety, for me, it's also body boundaries.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
In fact, I mean, my child and I can like just keep cuddling her all the time, but there are times when I actually seek her consent.
You
It may
have to.
sound funny
Yes.
to a lot of like, they don't get the point. Like even now when we're visiting,
Hmm.
when family is visiting us or when, we are visiting family, I always ask her,
Hmm.
would you like to
Yes.
hug? Would you like to probably give a
That's
kiss?
appropriate.
Yeah. Even for me, I have kids, my friends, my daughter's friends and stuff who are very close to me, who will just come jump onto me and hug me. And at the back of my mind, I'm always very cautious because
True.
you never know how, whether the other parent may like it or not. That's also, so I think parenting in that sense has got so many layers and has become so complicated. Like,
Like a
earlier,
minefield.
you could actually just say anything to any child,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
If a child was misbehaving, you will call them Badtameez, you'll say whatever it is to the face. Now you are thinking 10 times, forget others' kids, your own kids, you're
I
thinking
think
10
it's
times.
become more respectful
I
and
think so.
conscious.
And I think that's a
Yeah,
beautiful.
that is what, and I think it's necessary.
It is.
You can't just call a child anything or say anything to a child.
Absolutely.
Or tapli maar ke chale gaye and all
Absolutely.
that doesn't
Yeah.
work,
Yeah.
So you were talking about touching and boundaries and all. And I think when we were discussing, you were talking about safe and unsafe.
That's
or good,
right.
good touch or bad
Correct.
touch. And this is a perennial discussion or argument that happens, that don't say good and bad, say safe and unsafe, or appropriate and inappropriate. And I always say that for very young children, 2-year-old and 3-year-old and 4-year-old, safe doesn't mean anything.
Yeah.
But good and bad, they understand the meaning because you are constantly using it in your vocabulary with the child.
Correct.
This is good, you're a good boy, you're a bad boy. We use good and boy more often. So when a child is very young, it is good touch, bad touch. But as the child grows older, say 5 years and 6 years, you can say safe and unsafe, because then they would have an understanding of what is safe, what is the meaning of the word safe.
Yeah.
And as they grow older, of course, it's appropriate and inappropriate.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people say, don't call it bad and don't call it good. It's
Yeah,
not
it's something
good.
that kind of makes,
Yes.
because like I told you,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
I've been at the receiving end of it.
Yes.
And I think that whole bad sort of thing, puts guilt on us.
On you.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Because
Exactly.
it makes me feel like, I'm the
I
wrong
was
person.
the one.
Yeah, I was the one who caused it.
Yes. Yes.
And I just feel like it gives more power or more authority to the person who's
Exactly.
doing it because they've done it. And I think that's how most of these sexual
Absolutely.
crimes work, right?
Exactly.
It's always the person, the victim, or rather the person who suffered it, that who's dealing with it, because the
Yes.
predator is somehow out there doing it to another 10,000 people. But I wanted to, ask you this: that how is it in school that you'll ensure that teachers are making it a part of the curriculum? Because I remember as a student we had sex education in, I think, the 8th standard. I think
Yeah.
we had it in 8th.
We had it
But
in 10.
Yeah, but
But that was only when a company came to sell or teach us about
Exactly.
periods and
Yes,
stuff like that.
yes.
That was the only thing. We were
Yeah,
not told about all
correct.
this.
Like, I think my 19-month-old knew about menstrual cups and periods, right? I think that this whole shift in conversation and normalizing this is so important, because I still see a lot of families where periods are a taboo. I remember seeing a reel from an influencer with million views, million followers. And there was this one reel she had done where her daughter was sitting on the floor eating. And she came out supporting her statement, saying that this is a tradition. And I just feel it's so wrong, because one, you are an influencer. The whole idea of the word influencer is that you are influencing people.
Exactly.
Right? And and I think she has close to 2 or 3 million followers, if I'm not mistaken. And she's revered by her audience in that sense, especially the community that she belongs to. And when you see somebody like that, with all that wealth and with all that fame, doing something like it, just, I think, takes you back. So
Very
many
true.
centuries to say.
I think what you rightly said is influencers also need to have a sense of respect.
Yeah.
Recently I saw a stand-up comedian making fun of nursery teachers, and I put a comment also under his thing that he asked somebody in the audience that what are you? So that teacher, she said, I'm a nursery school teacher. And he started making fun of her, you know. So it's very important that when we talk about safety or when we teach children about anything, it's also a sense of bullying that we are telling them to stay away from. Because what is all this? Making fun, teasing, doing wrong things. It's all a form of bullying. Now, I know I have so many followers as an influencer and I can do what I want on my platform. So that's again another kind of reverse bullying, you know. But when we come back to good touch and bad touch or body safety, I always say sex education. I think the terminology is wrong, because then it tells a parent that you are going to teach the child about sex. It should actually be body education. That you are giving the child an education about their body, what is right, what is inappropriate, or what can be done and how and when and all that. So I think it should be body education rather than sex education. And in our schools, I think we were the pioneers when we started Good Touch, Bad Touch. It was around 18 years back. Wow. We were the first people to do it. And a lot of people asked us, why are you doing it? Nobody's even heard of it. And now it's become, and the first video which we made with Muppets, it's now going viral on YouTube. Everybody's using it. And we did something else after that. It's called lip locking. And I really want to create awareness in parents that many parents tend to kiss their children on their lips, and especially very young children. And we always tell them, don't do that, because it may be your family tradition, but your child is going to go to school and may repeat it with another child. So then your child is interfering with that other child's boundaries. But your child will feel nothing wrong in it because it's happening in my home.
Correct.
So these kind of a little bit of cultural differences also matter. And that's why we had done this other video also called lip locking. So it's all about body safety. And it's so important. Gentle parenting, safe parenting. We spoke about respectful parenting. I think all in all, it's all about just thinking about the child at the center of it all. What do you feel?
Absolutely. I mean, I think we all sort of live for our kids, right? As parents, our entire universe revolves around, like I said, we're just side actors and they are like the main actors, right? That's how I look at it, right? And I mean, it is true. I think the fact that of course, I think this generation now is more sort of, they choose parenting, right? With many of us, parenting is forced on them. I mean, you have to be a parent. You don't have any other choice, right? So in that sense, whether you have a choice or not, the fact that you brought a child into this world simply means that you are responsible for that child now. And by responsible, it does not just mean sending them to a good school and getting them the best of things and ensuring that they're financially sound. That emotional connect needs to be there.
Investment also. Your emotional
exactly.
Investment.
I think the disconnect that many of us have faced with our parents is the emotional aspect. Because while our parents have done everything in their capacity and they've really gone out of their way to do everything possible for us, even though they didn't have the financial means, still sending us to good schools, giving us the best education. Some of them, I know even today that they take loans to get their children married. You don't even have the means for it, but you're doing everything out of your way. But tomorrow, if that child has a problem in their marriage, are you willing to take the child back? No, right? Because there is no emotional connect. So I feel that's missing. I think that's somewhere that a lot of us parents today are working really hard on. And, I think it's not easy. Right?
I think if, as you said, the child is a responsibility. When you bring it into this world, you can't say now my responsibility is over. There is no phase at which or no age at which you can say it's over. It's not a goal. It's not a journey. It's an investment. You need to treat it like
when people say that I want to have so many kids because they will be my old age fund. And I always say this. I was like, to be honest, I know, of course, I do whatever it is for my parents, right? My spouse does it for his parents. But when I am older, I have zero expectations from my child. For the simple reason, I didn't ask you to give me birth. My daughter has every right to say that you brought me into this world because you wanted me.
You can't do parenting with expectations.
Yeah. Like I I still see that. I still see parents discuss their children like they are LIC policies. You know, but it is what it is.
Yeah,
That's how they look at it, and I'm like,
Absolutely.
no, they're not. And I'm very happy sometimes when I have the older generation, who, you know, I know some families and I know some parents, especially a lot of moms, who just let their children go. They're supporting them in every way possible,
Yeah.
but they've just let
They
them
have
go.
to fly the nest.
Yeah, you can't really, you know,
Yeah.
hold back a
Yeah.
child, and I think that's beautiful.
Just
That's something
because
that-
you go through that empty nest syndrome
exactly
doesn't mean that you
exactly.
won't allow them to fly
Yeah,
the nest.
correct.
Yeah.
You know, and I think one thing, coming back to the topic of safe and unsafe touch, one thing that I have personally done is I have always named her body parts by their actual names.
Always. I'm so
I
happy you
think
called that out.
One thing
I'm
that
so happy you
parents,
called
I
it out.
don't understand. You have a vulva, you have a vagina, you have a penis. What is so
Yeah, but you're
difficult
very
to
embarrassed
call?
about it.
Yeah. Like, what is so difficult
what
for
is-
you to
what
use
is-
the word?
Why is the word shoulders not very
Yeah,
thing?
because
You know,
it's
you understand knees.
Exactly.
Now knees can also be as embarrassing.
yeah,
You just gave that word a but it's done in schools. I always raise this with school teachers, that when you are doing body parts with your children, you say shoulders, knees and toes. Okay, what happened to the part in the middle?
yeah.
You just skipped it. It's skipped in posters, it's skipped everywhere else. You're just embarrassed about it. And that, very rightly said, that embarrassment needs to come out both from parents and from teachers.
Yeah. And it's important even from the perspective that, you know, when you use the right words,
Yes.
your child, if tomorrow, God forbid, they face a situation, they are, no matter what, even if
Yeah.
they're able to speak properly or not, you know, like especially
Yeah.
with younger kids, it's riskier. They know the right word, right? They can come tell you.
Exactly.
this.
Where
And-
exactly was I touched?
Yeah, and you know, it's something that I'm personally not comfortable with, and I know a lot of educators, parents make. You know, I've seen a lot of reels wherein you talk about only certain body parts you
Hmm.
don't give permission to others to touch.
Hmm.
For me, it's very different. I believe that any of your body parts, as much as your cheek,
Yeah.
right?
exactly.
If a child
If
is
I don't
not
want to be
comfortable,
touched, that's a very good point.
yeah, I think should not
That's a
be touched.
very good
Why
point.
is it that we
My
say-
body is mine.
Exactly. Why do
Yeah.
you say that, you know, only the breast, penis, the
Hmm.
vagina, the bum should not be touched?
Yeah.
I
That's a
think
very good
just
point.
the fact that you are putting, you know, sort of focus on these 4 points. Somebody who is a pervert and has got something
Hmm.
sexual on their mind can touch your child inappropriately without actually touching those organs, right? They can
Exactly.
do anything that they want. So I
Absolutely.
think those boundaries, Dr. Swati, are extremely important.
Absolutely.
You know,
And do you know something? There is this reverse thing that now perverts are doing. Usually, it is we warn children about not allowing anybody to touch them. These perverts are making children touch them.
yeah,
So we have to also warn children about that.
yeah.
That, you know, you shouldn't be touching anybody on those body parts or anywhere if they are asking you to touch them and you don't want to
Yeah.
touch them on that, you know.
So my child had this experience in school where a boy must have, I don't know, maybe he didn't have an intention in his mind. They're like 5, 6
Yeah.
year olds, right? He put his hand up her skirt.
Oh,
So, and I got a call from the school saying so and so incident happened, and she came off from the school bus and she was really upset. She was very, very sad. And I knew what had happened, and I was like, I just hugged her and I said, "Are you okay?" She's like, "Mama, he touched my vagina." Now, the fact that she was
Hmm.
able to, you know, tell one, for me as a parent, I mean, even though I felt bad about the experience that she had, is a big win.
yeah.
Because A, she trusted me to be able to come and tell me.
Exactly.
2, she
Exactly.
knew, obviously the word is vulva, but she's more comfortable with vagina, so I let her use it. She was she was actually able to come and tell me the exact body part,
Exactly.
right? So tomorrow if there's a situation, like, I'm also able to have a conversation, right? I think that's very important.
And isn't that heartening that the older generation was scared to tell their parents when somebody did something wrong to them?
Yeah, like I
And
said, in my
today's
case,
generation
yeah,
is able to tell their
Exactly.
That's the difference. That you have that comfort level now
Exactly.
with your parent, and you
Yeah.
know you won't be shouted at,
yeah,
because previously children used to think my parents will shout at me कि तुमने ही कुछ गलत किया होगा.
but that has happened.
Yeah.
कितनी बार तो हुआ
Yeah,
है. You've
exactly.
told, like for example, if a child would, you know, something happened maybe in the park, who does the blame always come on? That I told
Absolutely.
you not to go and play there. I
Yeah.
told you not to play at this time.
Exactly.
Right? The
So
blame has
that
always
needs to
been on
stop also.
yeah, I think that, you know, blaming sort of the victim
Absolutely.
is one of
I
the
think we've
biggest
done
challenges.
a full circle. We started with gentle parenting, then we went to respectful parenting, and now I think we are on to safe parenting.
Yeah.
And now I think if all these are not possible unless and until you yourself don't have respect for yourself,
Yeah.
then you'll have respect for your child. And if you are gentle on yourself, stop blaming yourself for feeling guilty,
Yeah.
you would be gentle with your
Yeah.
child. It was wonderful talking to you.
Thank you so
really.
much.
And I'm sure our listeners have so many takeaways from today. I had quite a few, which I'm going to implement in our schools at Podar Prep. And please write in your comments what you liked about the talk, what would you like to contribute to this discussion, and if you feel there were anything else that we can take up in our next conversation. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr.
Michelle.
Swati.
It
Such
was
a pleasure.
really a fantastic conversation, and it really opened my eyes to a lot more things that can be done on body safety in children.
Pleasure is all mine. Thank you so much. Thank you for having me. She's like, you're doing great as a parent. She's like, but there is no need
So
for you.
relaxed parenting also.
Yeah, new mantra. And that's the most difficult to be.
Being
Being a
hyper
hyper parent
to
is
be.
very easy.
Yeah.
But yeah, so